Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for this special video on my YouTube channel. Today's video is a part of the Card Crafters Collaborative, also known as 3Cs. I host this collaboration every season, and I ask some of my favorite crafty YouTubers to join me in the collaboration. This season's theme is all about the magic of the holiday season. Be sure to check out everyone's videos that will be listed and linked in the description box below. For my card, we'll be making a trifold Christmas card with a vellum window. Let's take a look at the products we'll be using to create this card. First up is the Christmas tree pieces die set from Hero Art. We'll be using the tree and the ornaments, so if you have a similar set, feel free to use that. We'll be using the nested stitched rectangles from Waffle Flower. These create some faux stitching detail that is absolutely gorgeous. We're going to bring in the Bitty Buzzwords Holidays from Honeybee Stamps. There are coordinating dies available for this set, but we'll just be using the stamps today. I grabbed some Hero Paste in white. We're going to be using this with a stencil to add some detail to our vellum. To take the paste up another notch, we're going to be sprinkling some chunky glitter onto it. For the die cut pieces, we're going to be using some traditional Christmas colors of red, green, and gold. To finish up, we're going to need a couple of card panels. I have some Nina Classic Crest Solar White and 80-pound weight that I've cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And then we're going to need 2 card bases that have a side fold. These card bases are made using accent opaque 120-pound weight cardstock. Let's go ahead and get started. As I began to make the card, I realized I forgot to show you the stencil that we'll be using. This is the large falling snow stencil from Simon Says Stamp. I love this stencil because of its size, but also because of the variation of the snow, the droplets of snow, as well as how they kind of fade out as you go from top to bottom. So I'm going to take my piece of vellum and I'm going to tape that vellum to the stencil. To do that, I'm going to use a couple of pieces of Easy See tape. This is going to adhere and keep my vellum nice and still as I begin to apply the Hero Paste to it. So I'm going to apply a thin layer of this Hero Paste onto the stencil and kind of push it through onto my vellum. I'm going to peel back my vellum in just a few minutes and set it aside. I can already tell that I like the direction that this card is moving in. So before that Hero Paste dries, I want to hit those snowflakes with some of that chunky glitter. The larger dots of the paste are going to grab just enough of this glitter to make a snowy, glittery effect. It really adds a lot to the card. So I'm going to put the glitter all over it, tap off the excess, and now I'm going to set this vellum aside to dry. So now we're going to move on to working on our card base. So we're going to bring in these nested stitched rectangles from Waffle Flower, and we're going to cut a frame out of the front third of the trifold card. So here I'm showing you how the two card bases are going to come together to create our trifold card, and then but we got to do a little bit of work. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to trim down one of the edges of the card base rather. I finally was able to get my hands on one of the Holtz mini trimmers, and let me tell you, I love this thing. I'm really loving having smaller tools that I can keep on my desktop as opposed to my larger tools, which I still love, but I have those on the desk behind me, and it's just a whole lot easier for me to be able to use these smaller tools right here on my desktop. So by trimming off just a slight edge, a sliver of that card base, our 2 card bases can be put together nicely to make a card that opens and closes very easily. So we're going to take the largest nested stitch rectangles dies, and we're going to put that on the front of the card. This is going to create a frame that we're going to glue our vellum into. So the very first part of the card that you're going to see is going to be a framed piece of vellum. So I'm using some Easy C tape again to hold that die in place. And then I'm going to do partial die cutting. So I'm going to bring over my magic mat. I love the magic mat from scrapbook.com. And I'm going to place my card panel with my stitched rectangle die on it. And then I'm going to place my cutting plate almost to the very edge of the die. This die will cut all the way around. It will cut all the way through the paper, but I don't want that. I want my frame to be attached to my card base. So that's where the partial die cutting comes into place. Now I didn't get enough pressure to cut the middle rectangle out completely, so I just brought in an X-Acto knife and trimmed, and then that made everything work just like I wanted it to. As we go through making this card, you're going to want to have a bone folder handy because you're going to need to reinforce your folds every now and then to make sure that everything closes and opens nicely. So now let's move on to die cutting our parts and pieces that we're going to lace and layer throughout our card. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out our tree. And then I want to position the tree on my green cardstock in a way that will allow me to get 2 trees out of this cardstock. So we're going to have a tree on the very front, and then we're going to have a tree on the inner flap of the card. So I've got my 2 die cut trees up in the top right hand corner, and now it's time to cut out our ornaments. The Christmas tree pieces die set from Hero Arts comes with about 4 different sizes and shapes of ornaments. I'm going to use all 4 of them as well as the star tree topper. I'm going to cut 2 of the star tree toppers, and then you can cut as many of those ornaments as your heart desires. I'm going to also run these dies. They're the perfect size for me to run them through my compact cutter from Hero Arts. This is another one of those smaller tools that I'm just loving having on my desktop. So I'm going to pull my little ornaments out there, and I need to get my get this tree topper out. And then I'm going to set up my dies to run them through one more time, or a couple more times actually. I'm going to poke out that star topper, and then we're going to move on with making the rest of the card. So I wanted the tree to look like it had been kind of kissed by that falling snow that we put onto our vellum piece. So I'm going to bring in some Barely Arts glue with the fine tip nozzle, and I'm just going to go along the detail that the die cut, and I'm going to add some glue to those different pieces and parts on the die cut. I'm then going to come in with that same chunky glitter and cover that glue up with the chunky glitter. Set that aside to dry for a little bit, and then we're going to move on to adding some of the decorations to the tree. So for the tree that's going to go on the inside of the card, I just wanted to keep it very simple and just add the star tree topper. So that's what you see me doing here. This is going to be the tree that's going to go on the inside. For the tree that's on the outside, this is the one that has the glitter detail with the snow effect. And this is also the one that we're going to add the ornaments to. So I'm using my jewel picker to just kind of place my ornaments around. I want to make sure my sizes are kind of scattered around. Now I'm going to use that same jewel picker to pick the die cuts up and glue them down with that Barely Arts glue. So while everything is over there drying, it's time for us to adhere our vellum to our frame. Off camera, I went ahead and cut a couple of frames from some of those pieces of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock that I mentioned in the beginning. I cut frames so that we could frame out our vellum pieces. This is a great place to, and a great way to hide the adhesive that we know will show through our vellum. But before we do adhere our vellum to our inside, I want to go ahead and stamp our sentiment. I'm going to use the word believe, And then there's another sentiment in this Bitty Buzzwords holiday set that says, "In the magic of Christmas." So I'm going to have put these two together and make a long sentiment for the inside of the card. I'm going to put the stamps down, grab them with the door of my MISTI, and then I'm going to bring in the newest distress color, Lumberjack Plaid. This is a beautiful, beautiful red that came out just in time for the holidays. So I'm putting my stamps in there in my MISTI, stamped them down about a couple of times, and that got our sentiment on the inside of our card. I really do love this beautiful red color, and I love the way it's stamped on the inside of this card. So now we've got that done, let's go ahead and put our two card bases together to create our trifold. So notice that one card opens to the left and one card opens to the right. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue both of these together to create a trifold. So I'm going to bring in my ATG gun, which is like a tape runner. I'm going to bring that in. It has permanent adhesive in it. And so I'm going to put down some strips of adhesive and close these two cards in on each other. So kind of look what I do. This card that opens to the left is going to be the bottom layer, and the card that opens to the right, like a traditional card, is going to be the top layer. So I'm going to glue those two or stick those two together. I want to kind of stand it up a little bit to make sure everything is even before I press it down. And then once I've gotten everything where I want it to be, then I'll press everything down and close all the flaps. Now earlier I mentioned that you'll want to have a bone folder around, and this is one of those times when you'll need to use it. You want to go ahead and reinforce all of your edges just to make sure that everything folds nice and neat. Got to run it on that side again too. Because we've doubled up our cardstock, it creates just enough thickness to where you'll need to reapply or re-burnish with your bone folder. So I'm going to bring in that ATG gun again with our tape runner in it. And now we're going to get ready to adhere our red card panel. So I've cut down a piece of red cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to adhere that to our inner flap of our card. So I'm trying to figure out what it would be the best way for me to kind of line these up, because I want to make sure that I get the placement as straight as I possibly can. So now we're going to bring in that piece of vellum we framed up earlier. We're going to apply this vellum to the front of our card where that frame is that we cut out at the very beginning. So I'm going to run a bead of this Barely Arts glue along the frame. And then I'm going to lay our vellum frame on top of this frame. So that's going to secure it to the card. The easiest way to do this is to open up the whole trifold card and lay down your vellum onto your front panel, your front frame panel. Because there isn't a whole lot that's holding all of this together, it's best to put an acrylic block on top of everything to apply some weight and kind of make sure everything is nice and secure. So again, I'm keep testing this trifold to make sure that everything is still folding nice and neatly. So now we're going to add our trees to our card. So I'm going to put the most decorated tree on the very front of our card. I'm going to use my reverse tweezers to bring that tree into my snowy card panel and make sure that before I press anything down that it's exactly where I want it to be. Make sure you look for your any little stray hairs or anything on your vellum before you glue your tree down. I like where the tree has been placed, so I'm going to go ahead and press everything down. Now I've taken that tree, the second tree, and placed it on the back side of the first tree. And I'm going to put a piece of Easy C tape on the very front of that tree and align it up so that when I close my card, that tree will adhere to the red card panel, but it'll be in the exact place as the tree that's on the front. So they'll kind of be layered up on top of each other. So I put some Beverly Arts glue on that on the second tree, close the card up, and now I'm going to put another acrylic block onto the card to put some weight down. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and remove that Easy C tape and apply the pressure with that acrylic block. And with that, this card is complete. Now, I would like to say, if I was to make this card again, I would cut out a third Christmas tree and place that on the back side of that vellum piece to hide our adhesive. But other than that, I think this card is absolutely beautiful. I love the way it came together. Thank you for joining me for this final 3C's collaboration for 2022. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. You can always find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Delta Crafter, as well as on my blog, thedeltacrafter.com. But wait, there's more. I created a second card using navy blue, silver, and gold. I used silver and gold for the ornaments and navy blue on the inside. And this time the tree is all white. Let me know in the comments below which of these cards is your favorite. The blue, silver, and white, or the red, green, and gold. Be sure to check out all the collaborators in this collaboration. Their videos will be listed and linked below. All of the products I used today will also be listed and linked below in the description, as well as on my coordinating blog post. I hope you guys have a wonderfully crafty holiday season. Thank you again for joining me, and until next time, enjoy!